MP, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to you, Prime Minister, Minister of TAYAT and his support team, and my colleagues, viewing and listening public as well. Going to keep it brief, actually, because everyone's talking about an executive report that we received from the Minister of TAYAT today, but it's only 4 pages, and the majority of it is filled with pictures, so it's actually really easy to review. So some of the topics were picked up by it. One of the things that I will say, just to read it for the listening public or viewing public, is a timeline of the construction. The timeline is a little inconsistent, because you talk about departure hall in October 2023, check-in December 2023, but when you go into the rest of the report, you see that the check-in is January 2024. So it's not December 2023, but January. So you might think that this is small little things that I'm looking at, but it's a big deal when you're talking about the high season for our airport, what people can expect. Because the reason that I bring it up is one of the things that I have kept the habit of is, since I left office, I've kept communication with not just managers here, but I've kept communication with regional managers of airlines. I've kept communication with corporate, and they're more than willing to give you answers on what's going on in the industry. And this is not proprietary information, but you need to keep your sort of ear to the ground to understand exactly what's happening in your country and why it is. And the reason I've had to do that is because I'm constantly being bombarded by taxi drivers, by restaurant owners, by hoteliers asking me what is going on. I'm a member of Parliament, and yes, I have built up relationship with stakeholders of our tourism industry, but I believe that everybody should be doing that is in that same industry, in this, whether you are in the Council of Ministers or you have been in that position beforehand. And one of the things that I kept getting for the last 4 months was what was going on with airlift. The biggest problem that we had was people were getting scared because of the fact that the ticket prices were so expensive, but then no one was getting any answers. So my whole suggestion again and recommendation is, don't rely on a inaccurate report like this to get your information. You need to maintain relationships with people in order to ensure that people are coming to your country. That's really the takeaway here that I want to leave through you, Mr. Chair, to the Minister of TAT, as well as the Prime Minister, as they're both here. Because I'll tell you straight up, when I go into the report, it talks about the trends of what happened. Everybody was complaining this island to 2019 because that was when things were going back to normal after Hurricane Irma. And when you read the report, it's talking about aeronautical business. It says the first half of 2023 showed volumes 105% above the totals of 2019. However, the last 2 months performed below the levels of 2019. The exact reason for this has not been identified. That's problematic because you're an airport. You make your money based on who's coming through your airport. You make your money based on passengers coming in. So you read this report, I get worried because I'm like, what is going on here? And then it says, but the airlines have also planned for fewer aircraft in the region due to limited resources. Just get your story straight. Get your data, because your country is depending on airlift. While we talk about diversifying our economy demands that we have cash. That cash comes from an existing industry, which is our tourism sector. So get it together and get your communication going. Communicate with your stakeholders, because if you also have a conversation with the hoteliers, you will know that we are approaching 40% occupancy. So get the information in, because this is what our future is being determined on. We need to know that people are coming to our country. We need to know that people are flying in, that our hotels are occupied, so that the government coffers can be paid. When you see this report, I get worried that we're not getting the information that we need to tell our country, our people here, that we're good. We got things sorted. Because if you had communication, you would also know that we have the highest amount of airplanes coming in from Air France and KLM this year, but you don't have the same thing happening with the North American market. That's why communication is important. It's not proprietary information when you're in government. I go on to read, another factor is that our airport is already functioning at its maximum capacity of 1.5 million movements. To be honest, I don't know what to believe, because you tell me you don't know the reason why we can't get people, why we don't have airlift, why it's down the last 2 months. You tell me it's related to not having enough aircraft. Just give me information that's consistent, that I can trust. That's my issue with this report. Like I said, it's 4 pages, mostly pictures, hardly any words in it. So if you want me to review something like this for the meeting, I will go through it, because it's easy enough to read, but it's also very, very, very inconsistent. I took notice of what the MP next to me said when he questioned about communication with government-owned companies. Now, what really concerned me with that was the fact that it's a coalition member that doesn't understand what's happening in the government-owned companies. That's my issue, is that you should have an idea of what's happening with it. I'm just stating the obvious based on what I hear people saying. So when you talk about the light at the end of the tunnel, I'm not getting that comfort, because I see information lacking. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.